50 Ways to Live Your Time. Number 2. From Lucifer to Lucifer by Kosen Handa. When we think of a situation that an observer involves in an event, the first thing that comes to our mind is the observer's gaze. We usually call the line connecting our eyes and the object a line of sight. Still, in the general human perception of space, we conceptualize this line of sight as a line segment in three-dimensional space because we also consider ourselves, an observer, as an object-like entity in three-dimensional space. Let's say there is an apple in front of me. The distance between the apple and me is about 50 centimeters. However, as I said earlier, this 50 centimeter distance at the depth is not an objective space. In other words, if the plane on which the apple appears as a projection image is a two-dimensional plane consisting of the x and y axis, the line from the apple to the observer eye tends to be interpreted as the third-dimensional direction. However, there is a slight temporal distance between the apple and eye. If the image of the apple is conveyed by the light emitted from it, then, precisely speaking, the apple I have seen is not the one existing now at this moment. Therefore, our gaze is necessarily four-dimensional. Such a dimensional interpretation of the line of sight does not require nosology's transformer gestalt, but simply applies to the physics space-time concept of the space around the observer. In other words, our gaze, which is the subject line, i.e. the depth, is the fourth dimension of space-time. What about the objective line connecting there, the apple, and there, a cup, on the other hand? This line segment connects the apple and the cup. Of course, it's not a line of sight. Since it is a line connecting one object and the other, there is no observer on the line segment. There is no traffic network, as seeing light is laid there. To use the expression I wrote in the arc of light, the rays of light running on this line segment are called light in the darkness, which has nothing to do with our act of observation. Since such light does not enable us to see, it is merely light interpreted by human consciousness. Physics calls the speed of such light 300,000 kilometers per second. And we are in a situation where we do not know what that speed means. The event I mentioned in the last video, the photon emitted from the flashlight hitting the screen, is an event experienced by the light in the darkness. However, witnessing the event through the eyes of an observer, through the seeing light, is another event that occurred in the fourth dimension. And through this fourth dimensional event of being witnessed by an observer, its phase can be shifted into the light in the light. But the trouble is that in the worldview of physics, as I mentioned earlier, the observer looking at the world is treated as just a position in space-time like any other object. And the light within the light never shows its face. So, in philosophical terms, existence is ignored. That is the main point that philosophers find the naive realist worldview portrayed by physics fishy. Okotsu gave me the information about light in the darkness as follows. Light in Naimen, the inside of a human, is called an organism. An organism is a spirit without katachi, the form. Sirius file. What the intelligence of Sirius called katachi, the form, is the manifested aspect of the unconscious structures, which corresponds to the idea in nosology. Still, according to Okotsu, human consciousness has yet to develop the ability to hold this idea as an object of thought. If we examine our self-consciousness, we can easily see that most objects of thought in human consciousness are extracted from the sensory organs, such as materials of their shapes and colors, sounds, and images, so to speak, representations from the sensory world. According to the French philosopher Henri Bergson, matter is also an image. In that sense, our thoughts always work with the representation of matter and their attributes obtained through our senses. In nosology, our concept of matter as material is called the delusional reflection of an organism. The terms express our belief in the independency of matter, which premises as if the matter were actually there to exist, even when it is not visible as light within light. Regardless of the presence of I, the world is filled with matter. Such a notion is merely a product of concepts rather than actuality, which means that no solid matter exists in space-time. More to the point, the location, i.e. locality, the ground of matter's existence in space-time, is only a product of concepts. Light at 300,000 kilometers per second has fallen into the darkness of space-time and lost its way. Let us call this light Lucifer, the fallen angel, by referring to the Old Testament. We are entering a time to call this Lucifer back to the light within light. This beautiful archangel, said to have 12 pure white wings, rebelled against God, banished to the darkness, he transformed into a vast blind bat covered with black fur flying around in the dark of night. To resurrect this fallen angel Lucifer in his original state, we need to transform the significance of light from mere physical light to the workings of spiritual light. In other words, we must work on what the Gnostics called the salvation of light. The conception of Mary, the descent of the powers of Sirius, entering into the domain of creation, and ascension. From nosology's perspective, they are all symbolic stories of this transformation of light, from Lucifer, the fallen angel, to Lucifer before his fall.